Okay, I think we are live. Just give me a thumbs up when you can see that we're on live. Okay, awesome. I think we are on live. People are joining on to the YouTube channel. Welcome, guys. Let me know where you guys are dialing in from as well. We have Raheem Mahrajul, Andre. Oh my God, Andre, man. You're gonna learn a lot from a lot of these guys that are on here. But awesome, guys, welcome. Nice to have you here. We have a very special guest, Mr. Taylor. I was just asking him, how do I pronounce your surname? And he corrected me as like it's Taylor O'Hare, but I probably call him O'Hara, God knows what. But we'll refer to Taylor from Taylor. It's a pleasure having everybody on here on the live. Taylor, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here at the Closers University Live Mastery for appointment setting. We hear you've been doing amazing things, and it's crazy. Me and Taylor go back from when I first got my real breakthrough in high ticket sales, and that was working with Kevin David. And I think that was your first role there as well, wasn't it? And it's crazy. And we were like
Yeah,
off camera.
yeah, it's crazy.
We It's crazy. Don't worry, I'm gonna give you plenty of time to speak.
Amiga.
But like it's insane how far we both have come, and we're both being from the United Kingdom, and for both of us it was our first experience, in the high ticket space. And it's crazy to see how far we've both come. And sometimes it's really humbling and rewarding to see that, if you hold on to something long and hard enough and you have a big reason why, how far you can go. And but yeah, so Taylor, since then, I think we were both on the Jeremy Minor apprenticeship or something. I can remember, like, I enrolled to a Jeremy Minor apprenticeship or something, or some scholarship, and I learned a lot there. But then I had to drop. Well, I didn't. I half dropped out, but then because I landed the role with Kevin David, I just went all in with that. And then, but I think you pursued things with Jeremy Wine, and you guys are going to hear lots of great things from Taylor here, guys. If you guys don't know, Taylor has done, many great things within this space already. He's worked with some great people. He's learned from a lot of people. He's been responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think it's well over a million. Actually, he's been responsible for millions of dollars online.
That's
And
two.
it's a pleasure having you on the call here today, bro. And I'm really excited for, all the aspiring appointment setters, but even the current appointment setters and anyone in high ticket sales as well, because appointment setting for some closers is part of their closing as well, because you need to make sure, and we're gonna go into, all the details of not only appointment setting, but also, the importance of appointment setting to closers as well, and what closers need to make sure that's happening with your appointment, in order to have that successful close. So, but without further ado, guys, I want to welcome you all to our masterclass. And Taylor, I'll hand it over to you, and if you can just maybe give our guys a brief introduction about yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. I'll make sure I'm not a total stranger. So yeah, appreciate the introduction there, Jabran, as well. Very kind. I've still got loads to learn, by the way, guys. So yeah, I'm definitely not perfect, neither are any of us. So yeah, we're all just on the same journey, basically. But for myself, so my background is within sales actually before I even started the high ticket space. So it's been since June 21, I was on the same offer with Jabran and Kevin David. Actually, that was closing. I jumped straight into it, but I just did not have I suppose, the skills that I needed to really do well in that role. So I actually had to move really back into setting. But my sales goes all the way back to when I was 19 years old. So that was like 6 years ago now. I actually did door-to-door sales for about a year and 7 months, alongside cold calling in the same role. And if anything, that's really what gave me the foundations to realize that, settings definitely a skill that's not as hard as I thought. It can be, it's very easily done, but of course, it can be very easily overcomplicated and done the wrong way, right? And I've definitely done things the wrong way as well, and that's what's helped me to get to this point. But yeah, I think with regards to being a setter, there's so many different things to learn. Of course, with like my background, really, I've been in offers. Gibran mentioned Jeremy Minor. I was working for him for a year and 3 months at the start of January 2022. That was about 6 months into my journey. And yeah, during that time, I learned a
I'm gonna
ton,
pause
right?
you though, Taylor. I gotta pause you because look, I just casually just said it. Jeremy Minor is like someone I really look up to as well, and I've learned a lot from myself.
Right.
Tell the people watching here today as well, like how did you manage to land to not only like on the scholarship or working with Jeremy Minor? How did it all come about, first of all?
How did it come about? Yeah, so it was quite funny. So I actually invested into a career development program from a guy called JD Daly. Some of you may know him. And because I had no idea how to get into high ticket sales, I had no clue. I was lost. I thought, how the hell do you get into this? I thought it was all just a fad when I started, to be honest. I just thought, like, how is this even happening where people can make 10K a month? I did not think that was possible for me in the slightest. But how I landed the role was, through the strategies that I learned from JD, as far as like, developing a reputation, posting content, really drawing people to me. That's what allowed me to have a very simple application into the role. For some of you that are new here, you may be going through, just commented the word interested on certain job posts, or you may be liking and reaching out direct. The issue is you're competing with potentially hundreds of applicants in that month. So, and the reality is, we need to be realistic with ourselves. Like back then, if I did that, I'd have been probably amongst the average performers, if not one of the lowest, right? So there's always ways of getting through what's called the side door, the third door, right? And I took that
Hang on a minute.
approach.
So if we so when I see a job post and I write interested, does that mean I'm doing something wrong?
I mean, you know the answer to that question, but of course it's not helpful because you're just doing the same thing as everybody else. Like, how are you really setting yourself apart doing that in the process, right? Oftentimes, if we look at jobs in general, think about the people who generally get them. You might know a friend that said, "Oh, I just found it from one of my mates. He's the boss. He got me the job." But he probably got the job over someone who was probably more qualified but went through the application route. And the realization I got there was that companies go to post online or to gain more attention when they haven't met their warm network contacts to provide a position there, or there's someone within the company that they can't promote. They stress all of their warm contacts first before they go cold. So I realized that as I learned from JD, and that's why what I did is I actually posted content in both of the main sales groups that they had, right? So don't forget, Jeremy Minor was affiliated with Sales Sniper at the time. So they had two groups, and I posted content in both of those groups because what I wanted to do is bring some attention. I realized what kind of values that Sales Sniper had, and I realized what the culture was like. So what I wanted to do was actually kind of show that I could demonstrate that I'm part of that culture, that I can easily squeeze into that team. Because guys, what you realize more than anything, yes, experience, how much you've sold, like all of that sometimes can be relevant, but don't be fooled by that. That's not every reason why people get hired. Sometimes it's that they are a culture fit, right? Can this person learn? Is this person open-minded? Can they really be a good fit into the team? That's probably one of the most important parts of getting into a company here in the high ticket space. So I used that to my advantage, posted some content that brought some humor, right? And I wanted to get the attention of there was three people. The first one was Matt Ryder, the CEO, who's an incredible CEO. I'd recommend looking into some of his content and what he does as well. Of course, I wanted to get the attention of not just the CEO but the CFO as well. There was James Sackle, who was part of the operations team, who I wanted to get the attention of as well. And then Marco Cortese, who was actually hiring the guys, who was a top sales rep, and he made over 100K a month. Think selling fitness programs as well. So I wanted to get his attention. Those were the three big players, and they all managed to, engage with my posts. That's what brought them to want to interview me for a position rather than going through their usual process. So that's
Oh,
the
wow,
long story, I guess.
that's amazing. Whoa, that's crazy. So you got their attention, and then they wanted to interview you.
Yes.
Pretty decent. Sorry, I stopped you once you were on your flow anyway, and you were giving your story as well. So you can carry on with your journey. And so, would you say your first experience with in high ticket sales, well, that was with Kevin David, and then your real role was your real first experience was, would you say, with Jeremy Minor?
I would say so because I was in Sniper actually in August 2021. That's when I officially onboarded with them. But I was part of an offer that the systems were just not working out. It was just simply not a fit on that offer, even though I was working my hardest to make it happen. But yeah, we had to switch offers. They placed me into seventh level, and that's where like I realized the alignment was there. The offer was a fit. I felt amazing in the role, and it allowed me to really express myself and develop myself. So that's where I think everything started to change. Was when I worked there. And that's one part of being a setter as well. Yes, the skills, the mindset, very very crucial, but offer selection is massively important to your own foundation. So where you start often can impact the way things go later on in your career, as it has certainly helped me now.
100%. And like just as you just touched upon right now, as in like your first couple of offers may not hit it off for you for whatever reason or whatever. But like imagine and like they didn't happen for me as well. Like most people don't know this and they probably don't well, they didn't know about for you as well. Imagine we just quit after the first couple of failures. Oh, like it's not working. Oh, it's not happening. And there's some people on this live right now, and they're gonna watch the recording later as well. As in, they've been trying this for a while, and it's not happening. And they're thinking to themselves, "Oh, but is it really going to happen for me? Or oh, is this even going to work?" And there's some people right now, even from the UK, they actually don't see the potential of this as well. And I wanted you to touch upon maybe some of the setbacks that you had at the beginning and what made you want to like not only be attracted to this industry, but like why did you even carry on?
Yeah, so I think for me, if it wasn't for having a mentor, if I didn't have a mentor at that stage, I wouldn't have even got started, right? And I think, and this is mainly pertaining to a lot of people from the UK. Sometimes we can have a very small-minded, fixed mentality. I grew up, with my family was more like that, like small thinking, and that's the way that I grew up. So for me, looking outside of the box of the traditional job routes that I wasn't saying expected. My parents are very freeing and they allow me to do what I want to do because they know I'm driven. But the reality is, the expectation was always get a job, go down that classic route. But when you come out to something that's totally different or unheard of, then the fears do feel a lot worse. And for me, like the personal development as well as skill development, professional development was needed a lot more. So for me, it was that mentorship that was really what helped the most. And I'd always recommend that find somebody who's in a position that you want to be in, or that you want to, I suppose, embody some of the traits that they have and follow the path that they've been on. It's that classic case. I know everybody says it, success leaves clues, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's the reason that helped me to actually not only transition into the space, which by the way was bloody hard. It was, really difficult at times. I wanted to quit several times. And didn't believe in myself for, I'd say, a lot of my career, really. Even when I was getting results, I did not believe in myself a lot of the time. But the reality was, it's just the persistence and acting in spite of it, which gradually builds your confidence to believe, oh, maybe I can do this, or maybe I am capable, right? But it's just staying in the game. It's what some people say is it's not just about growing your business, but just staying in business sometimes is what's needed to give you those opportunities and those paths that eventually may be the thing that you're looking for. So just keep searching for it. That's the biggest thing I can say there.
It's crazy. Wow. So tell us, okay, tell the guys, watching in right now, as in, they're trying to some of them are trying to get into high ticket sales, appointment setting, and so probably start from like the foundation. Like what would you say is the foundation of what you know right now? Or like let's just say I'm a brand new person. I've got some sales experience. I know about the high tickets, closing space, setting space, etc. What would you teach me as a brand new beginner, or what would you say to your younger self starting out right now? And what are the things that I should get in place right now as a foundation level?
Yeah, so the first thing would really be because the first thing you need to do is, well, firstly, get a position, right? And assuming that you have a sales experience. In fact, some people here may not have had any sales experience in the past, right? The first thing is to like do I guess, a self audit, I guess, of like your current abilities. It doesn't have to be sales experience, right? Sales is really communication. So there are so many examples that you can use from your professional background or personal background. For example, I was playing football, for a team that was semi-professional level, and I used a lot of those footballing examples in some of my interviews, right, of like team sports and how I was performing in those specific areas, right? Because I'm a big football guy. But it's you looking at what areas and strengths that you have and what can apply to sales. For example,
Transferable
discipline's a
skills.
huge thing. Yeah, transferable skills, exactly that. So that's really important to have a self audit of what you currently have. And then from there, it's about, right, well, how can I get to know people and how can I have them be in a position where they want to fight for me to win? Right. That was what I was really trying to do is, from the starting point, I wanted to make sure that I wanted to get people on my side, but not just anyone, right? Don't connect with any person, but look at people that are salespeople that are getting great results. Salespeople are often the easiest to connect with because we love speaking with people. We love connecting with others. So connecting with other sales reps and building a relationship there is important. Some people go straight to the business owner, to the VP, to the CEO. I definitely, would recommend doing that as well, but that's a long burner, right? That takes time to get them to think, oh, hang on, who is this guy? I'd reach out and see what he wants. Um, but yeah, start off with really high level salespeople. Figure out what's important to them, connect with them, engage in their content, boost them up, make everything they're doing a lot better for themselves. And if you help enough people get what they want, then of course you're going to get something back from that. It's a natural reciprocal theory, right? So we all want to do that, is give value, and of course things do come back. So that's the first thing I'd want to do, is then connect with those people. Once that's done, and at that point, then you can start to ask what you want, which is, do you know of any positions or roles that are available that you know of, even if they don't have a role in that company. Great salespeople know a lot of great salespeople, right? They also know of a lot of great roles. So they can help with connecting you into those great roles. But of course, they're only going to do that if you're able to create such a great relationship with them that they actually trust you. Because not only that, when they make a recommendation, it's not only your reputation that's on the line, it's their reputation, right? So it's being able to give as much value as possible to that person, and make their life easier if you can, to eventually get that trusted a recommendation to a business owner or potential opportunity. So that's, I would say, the very first step. And then from there, it's then, of course, getting into that role, building those relationships and carrying that on. One mistake that I definitely did make is that when I got into a role, I stopped networking. I stopped connecting with people. I stopped trying to build a reputation and talk about my wins on my socials. Right. That's really what led me to being so reliant on seventh level. I felt like if I wasn't at seventh level, I was gone. I'm out of the space. Like, it was the worst. When sometimes you're in a job, you think that's the holy grail. You have to be in that job, otherwise you're screwed, right? We can get so reliant on an opportunity. You want to create so much abundance because that actually improves the way you sell. You're totally detached at that point. You know that you're a week away from being a great opportunity anyway. So there's no worries, right? You've got backups, you've got plans. And, from all of this work that I've been able to do with reputation management, connecting with others, I'm now at a stage where no matter what happens with my current role, I know that there's an offer waiting for me somewhere. I know I've got someone that I can connect with that can find me an offer to hop on within a week, just like that. And so that, yes, that does take time, because building trust is a hugely time-based activity, but it's what gives you that, not only just, yes, you can make money and perform well, but you get actual safety in the space, that career sustainability that most people want, right? Nobody wants to be in a position where we're one job away from like having no income and no options. That's the last thing that we want. So that would be, I guess, I mean, there's obviously way more steps than that to eventually get to where I am, but those are the two biggest steps, is focusing on myself, an audit of myself. What are my strengths? What can I bring? And then how can I connect with those people to find those opportunities? That's what I'd say.
Nice. Well, I'm taking notes here, and it's completely making sense as well. And I was quite similar to you actually as well. Like, my first experience in the high ticket sales space, were like one of the first people that I spoke to, is one guy was from like Bastion Slots coaching program. Luke, I'm sure his name was, but then Hunter from UCM.
Great guy.
This guy, man, I swear, I was just back and forth. Like, literally, he just used to just help me out. And like, I remember just once having a conversation with him, and then like we were just going back and forth on things, and he was just helping and guiding and supporting me. And it was these little connections that we made and I had that set me up on like navigating my way through this industry. And it's so important, man. It's so important. And it's important in the sense that that the adding the value part. Like some people, like they build a connection, or they're like, oh, because I'm massive for networking as well, huge. Like I was in network marketing before this as well, and like everything we did was all networking.
That was my first ever
So
business. Yeah, I remember
yeah.
that.
So networking, like for me, I love networking. I was a holiday rep for many years as well, and that was all connecting and networking with people as well, building relationships. But you want to build relationships and add value. Give, like, people are always interested in like what's in it for me. But how about you put other people's interests first? And okay, how can I be of service and value to them? Then eventually, they'll be like, okay, how can I help you? Like I have so many people, and like bless them, a lot of people be messaging me like Jabran, and I put out the most raw content ever. Like I don't even care. Like, look, I've literally got like £1,000 brand new camera that I just need to set up. Matt Lepre gifted me this actually, the dropshipper, the 8-figure dropshipper. Because and crazy. Look, I gave him lots of value. I built out a sales team for him. I built out a sales manager brand new for the whole of the UK and everything. And he was like, how can I sub like I was like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And then him eventually, through someone working there, he found out, oh, like, what can I get Jabran? He found out that I was making YouTube videos. He was like, let me send him a vlogging camera or whatever. But like that was him. And I was just giving value to him. I didn't even want anything in return. He wanted to hire
It's
me
massive.
for like the managing position himself, but like I brought someone else there, and I got someone else there, but I added value to him. And look, now he's like a friend of mine, and I've got so many friends that have worked there, and he's even given me a gift that which I should freaking connect, but I'm terrible with technology. But this is what, like, look, just through networking, I landed roles with. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like, who the hell has Ty Lopez like just book out a freaking whole week of Airbnb and like, oh, just flies you out and like, oh, come and work with me, but and I was literally living in an Airbnb that Ty had just booked for me for a whole week, and I went and worked with him, and I placed multiple sales reps there as well. For me, it was all about just giving value, and I've done business with so many massive influencers and close with them, and for me, I was like, and one thing I always say is get attention. Make sure you're getting people's attention. It's like right now, I get a lot of people, and I say to them, look, there's so many clients on my socials, from my Facebook, my YouTube, my Instagram, all of the, a lot of them. I tell these guys, when you're like, if you're on my socials, make sure your social is nicely lined up, and it's clear and it's professional. And when you're commenting, and I tell the guys that all the time, how you do anything is how you do everything. However, you're showing up on your social media, guess what? Your social media is your billboard. All the comments and everything that you leave, you're showing the world who you are. And guess what? A potential client may see it as well and be like, oh, who's the guy that's leaving that detailed feedback or that detailed comment in the YouTube comments or the Facebook posts or on Jabran's feed? Or who is that person? Like I can name so many guys, literally, from the closest university that have got my attention, that are getting my attention by just showing up and showing me that they're learning. And this is one thing that I always, and look, that's them building relationships with me. And I've referred so many people, but like for this month, I've told everybody, like right now, like it's all good being referred to roles. Like, look, if someone builds a good relationship with you and everything, and that's all great, and you even refer them to a role. And it was something that I was discussing with a lot of the guys in the VIP today, well, this week, that you can get referred to the best of opportunities. But if you're not ready for that opportunity and you haven't upgraded yourself, you're only going to leave there as soon as you came on, as quick as you came on. And that's why it's so important. What I really believe and what everyone's doing here today is upgrading themselves. And that's what I want you to share with us here, Taylor, as well. Like, how can we become the best versions of ourselves? And let's just say as appointment setters, because you did pretty well. Like, I think you did really well at seventh level as well. So tell us like some of the things that you learn and some of the things that you know, the do's, the don'ts, and like you know the real clues, because some of the guys over here may not have appointment setting roles, may not even have roles, but if they can get your nuggets and they can showcase this online and on social media, as in what, just giving value on their socials. So like people watching this training here today, you can take the tips that Taylor is giving you right now. If you're in a role, you can apply them in your role. Or you can take the tips over here and you can post them on your socials. Guess what that is doing? That is showing your audience that, hey, this is the knowledge and expertise I have as an appointment setter. This is my best practice. And that's why I want everyone to really utilize what like the tips and tricks and everything that, you know, Taylor, you're going to share with us. And I'm really excited, to hear that from you.
Yeah, this is going to be a long answer. So yeah, be prepared, guys. I'm going to go through some foundational stuff. I think it's important that, and this is for based on people who are in roles right now. But of course, guys, for those who are not in roles, feel free to take notes so that you're in preparation for when you guys are ready and are in roles, of course. So I think, you know, the first thing that's really important is, all right, we need to look at, you know, what we're willing to do in our own actions. The first thing is being able to, especially with an appointment setting, we need a hunter mentality, right? And when I say hunting, it's like, let's imagine that for that day, you know, we literally needed to get X, Y, and Z outcome, or we're not feeding anybody, right? Or we're not getting anything done, or we're just feeling like we're just having an unsuccessful day. It's doing anything, you know, no matter what, right? So that's the hunter mentality. Being an appointment setter, most likely you're going to be working with multiple lead sources. So being creative with the lead sources you have, being able to manage your time in a way that's most productive for you, that enables you to get a lot of, not just, you know, you don't want a high number of sets. That's what I previously used to focus on, but it's a high quality amount of sets, right? So it's being able to have that level of resourcefulness to think outside the box. Because the reality is with appointment setting, you will have days that will be nice and easy. You have your warm sources, you just hit those up, get a lot of sets. Great, that's fantastic. But you're going to have some days where your lead sources feel dwindled, you feel like there's nobody to contact, like you've stressed every resource. The reality is you have a limited mindset if that's the way that you're thinking about it. And that's not something, you know, that I say from incongruency. I have definitely, you know, been there myself where I've said, oh, I've got nothing to do today, right? It sometimes has felt like that. When I have been challenged to say, right, there is a lot more out there, think outside the box, usually there are so many different ways to get leads. For example, I used to work a Facebook group. That was my main priority, was just to work a Facebook group, get leads from that. And I tried all of the new members. I tried all of the people who were posting. I tried like all of the ones from the past in the CRM that were like a year old. I tried so many lead sources. There was actually a whole week where it dwindled and dried up, because this will happen on your offers, guys. You'll get weeks where it feels like it's dried up. You're not getting new inquiries coming in. What I did is there was one day where I thought, right, well, let's just comment on some posts, right? Let's add some value to people who are posting, who have questions, or, you know, let's create a post in order to create engagement. I created a post and I posted some comments on, oh, I have this resource that helps with X, Y, and Z. There was one comment, I had nearly like 30 likes on that comment, and there was like several comments saying, hey, can you give me this training? Hey, can you give me this training? I had people messaging me saying, hey, can you give me it? And that already created like, you know, at least 20 inbound opportunities just from being able to do that. So guys, you know, being able to focus not just on how do I do tons of outbound, but how do I create inbound opportunities? Those are even warmer because those people are actually reaching out to you. They are more active. They're willing to learn. These are guys you want to set, right? Not just people who are forced to through your amazing selling process, right? And obviously you cannot manipulate people to do things, but of course you want it to feel like it's totally their decision and they own that decision, most importantly. So that's the first thing, is having that hunter mentality. Another thing that I found that's I wish I'd have learned a lot more about sooner, but understanding human decision making and diving a lot deeper into that. One book that I'd recommend you guys to buy is, if you go to Amazon and type in Start with No, that book is incredible because that teaches you a lot about how we make decisions as human beings. And the author of that book was a negotiator for several years, right? Of course, you have Chris Voss, you know, Never Split the Difference. That's a great book as well. But Start with No, I would say, is probably the best sales book that I've read alongside Spin Selling. And of course, going through Jeremy's training was good as well. But those are some great examples of books that help me to understand how do humans actually make decisions, and what drives them to do certain things, and how do you facilitate that decision that's in the most optimal way for that person, right? That's really, really important for you to navigate conversations, to remain detached, because that's one of the most important thing about appointment setting is not just going for the set, right? I want as many sets as I can today. It's all about how can I find as many people as possible that are willing to make optimal decisions for themselves that actually, we can actually progress to the next stages. Because your job as a setter is simply to take people down a funnel, right? To go from maybe, problem awareness, they realize they have an issue, to solution aware, to actually having a conversation with a rep, and then eventually signing up, right? You're just pushing people down the funnel. That's your job. So being able to understand human decision making will help you deal with lots of different characters. As you speak with them, nobody is the same, as far as prospects. These human beings have different prerogatives, different passions, different things they want to do, different issues. So it's your job to, be as flexible and fluid as you can. Understanding human decision making will help you to adapt to different types of people. So that's another thing. Another thing as well, I had one main point that I actually think held me back massively, probably throughout the whole time that I was at seventh level, and I would say was the identity. Right? We should never. And one thing I always used to do was I always was just like I'm a setter, right? I'm an appointment setter. That was like my identity the whole time, and I did not realize how much that was limiting me from my own potential. Right? The reality is, an appointment setter is part of your role, but it's not who you are. I literally got to the point where that's how I identified myself as. So if I thought bigger, thought of bigger income goals, tried to expand my opportunities, I couldn't because my identity was so fixed where I was very limited in what I could do and what I could achieve. Um, and so, yeah, it limited me massively. And so just making sure that you're focused a lot more on career sustainability and, you are a sales professional, right? You've got to upgrade yourself and focus more on the bigger picture, the future, because nobody wants to be an appointment setter forever. That is the reality, guys. This is a stepping stone, right? To give you the necessary skills to eventually, who knows, become a remote closer, be a business owner, potentially be a sales manager, whatever it is you want to do. This is an amazing stepping stone where as a setter, you speak to people day in, day out. You get the most exposure to conversations, which gives you an advantage over those who have fewer conversations. It was like when I used to do door to door, I used to knock 100 doors a day, from about 10 a.m. until 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That's what I used to do. And speaking to that amount of people was what helped me to adapt to so many different cultures. I went from speaking to people all the way from Jamaica to people who are from like Eastern Europe to people who are like into voodoo magic and all that stuff. And that was, I had some crazy times door to door, but that taught me a lot about adapting to different people as well. But the main thing is, coming back to the identity point, realizing that you are an overall professional, it means you can start to expand the scope and look beyond appointment setting and knowing that what you're doing now is it contributing to your future rather than just, oh, it's getting me a nice paycheck and a big performance at the end of the month, right? Now, don't get me wrong, some of those months near 10K were great as a setter. That was, really positive. But, at that point when you achieve that milestone, you're like, well, what's next after about 60 seconds anyway? So, I always focus on the bigger picture, guys. And yeah, being a setter is a stepping stone. Um, so yeah, that's another thing. There's plenty more points I could make, but those would be, I'd say, the most important points, really, as
Keep
far as
keep keep going, bro.
what helped me.
Tell us about your time at Sales Sniper and like what was your role there and how did it start off and how did it evolve and what was some of the mistakes that you made in the role
Yeah.
and then yeah, we'll go from that part folks for now.
Yeah, so I remember at the start of Sales Sniper, that's when Marco hired me in August 21. I just remember like I managed to negotiate a pretty solid base, right? That's another thing, guys, is being able to negotiate terms that are ideal for you, right? Sometimes you're going to be in roles where you don't quite know what is coming. Of course, you do need to pre-vet these offers, definitely, but being able to negotiate something that's on your side is very important. But one mistake that I made is I came to a point in this was actually before I started with seventh level, but with Sniper they placed me onto an offer where I didn't get resourceful enough. I was complaining quite a bit. I was just saying this is not working out. Like, can you place me on a different offer? I was just not being resourceful and creative enough. And oftentimes
What were
as
you
well,
complaining about? Maybe some of us
yeah,
can
just like, oh,
relate.
there's not enough leads. Like, this is
Oh,
I'm not enjoying this
leads.
offer. I'm not happy. And
What about the old leads? Oh, these leads are too old, man. Like,
Yeah, they're
did you
never
ever have
gonna
that?
be interested. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a level of validity to that point, but like, don't let it get to the point where it consumes you and it leaves you stuck doing nothing about it, right? Because at that point, you're putting power to an external factor, and you've given yourself no responsibility to make a change, even if it means leaving that offer. Well, at that point, get resourceful and figure out a way to transition, right? Create a plan for yourself. So,
This
I
one
just
though.
wasn't
What
responsible.
about this one? And I want you to remember what you're talking about because I want you to go back. But like, there's a question that just came in my
Well,
mind right now, as in like, when setters say that, oh, like some setters they have like thousands of these leads that have come through like company's pipeline, but like they're like
mhm.
2, 3, 4, 6, 12 months old. Now, I know what approach I would take to this, as in, like, these are people that showed interest in what I'm speaking about. I just need to remind them and get them excited again about what I'm speaking to them about. But like, how do you respond to people that like have thousands of these leads, thousands of them, but they're like complaining like, oh, these are old leads though, and because I've seen like Grant Cardone and like many other big people rip into people like this that complain like this. But I want to hear it from you. Like, how did you handle it, or what would you say about that?
Course, I think the biggest thing is to put yourself in a position where, because that statement comes from low confidence, usually a lot of the time. And I've made that statement because at that point I was low in confidence and not sure of my own ability, right? The first thing you need to do is get to a point where you build your own confidence. That starts from going from the warmest leads, working all the way down, because you do have a better chance with warmer leads. That's just a fact. But also, it comes from, a more of a fixed mindset where you're not allowing yourself to think outside the box. Right. At the end of the day, these people, whether it was, 1 month ago or whether it was 3 years ago, they were interested at some point. Right. And you're all of a sudden making an assumption that they may not be interested by saying, oh, what's all these warm leads about, these like old leads about, like, they're not going to be interested. We're already making assumptions. We've not even spoke to that person. Figure it out first and then make your judgment. You know what I mean? It needs to be the order needs to go the other way around. And so that's why, as a setter, your job is to simply provide a reminder. Do they even recognize us? If not, do they have a potential problem that we may potentially be able to solve? Right. That's what your job is to do on that initial outbound call. I mean, if we're focusing mainly on outbound here, then that's going to be really the core focus. So just figure out and gain recognizability based on not only just the company itself, but do they have a problem potentially that you're able to work with. So that would be my first instance, to not be assumptive of what these leads will do, and have the, I guess, trialing and testing mentality, trying different things that work, trying things that don't. In the DMs, I was always trying different ways to do things, even though I had Jeremy's framework, which was like, at that time it was like, wow, everybody wanted that DM script, right? Everybody was after it, everybody was asking me about it. um but at the end of the day, right, there's so much more to it than just like a simple framework and script as well. So I found that just being able to be a lot more creative and trialing and testing things that perhaps didn't work with some people, it allowed me to be more adaptive and actually engage a lot more people to want to talk with me. So it's more of an opportunity, if anything, than a problem. But it's all about how you look at it.
You steer where you stay. If you're going to be thinking that, oh, these guys are old and these guys are not, and I'm like, there's 3,000 opportunities there for you to potentially make 5% on, let's just say it's a 20 grand offer. So there's 3,000 opportunities there where you could potentially make $1,000 per close. I mean, like if we were told, okay, hey, Taylor, you just have to speak to these 100 people. You just have to connect to 100 people to maybe set 50 appointments, or not even 50, let's just say 15 appointments. Speak to 100 people to set 15 appointments. And out of those 15 appointments, 5 show and 2 close, or even 1 closes. So now you've got some numbers to go by that, hey, every 100 people I connect to, I'm making $1,000. Now you're going to blast through as many dials that you can to connect with someone, because now you've got some metrics. And I think a lot of people lose track of like what are the foundations of sales that have been for the past decades. Just because I know it's different selling now or whatever, but some of us we lose the real sales principles, as in like the numbers don't lie, and like you just need to go through some numbers as well, and we can't just knock it. But yeah, man, I'm glad that you touched upon that. But tell us more, bro, about your experience, as a setter and like how it was, and with Jeremy Minor, and like what did you experience, and what are the mistakes that you made, and that the ones that you would want these guys watching not to make and correct.
I think, yeah, it'd be nice for me to obviously, for my own personal side to cover all of the achievements I made, but I think it's only fair that I talk about what I did poorly, because that's ultimately what led me to have the achievements that I had at seventh level at Sniper. When I was at Pomper program doing some setting for them as well, there were some achievements made there. So I think first and foremost, like there were some tough conversations that I had at seventh level. There were times where, there was a couple of occasions near the beginning of seventh where I just was not up to par. I was not up to standard with what I was doing, and I was rushing conversations. I was not reaching out for help and using the training that, because Sales Sniper provided tons of training, like it was all there and available to me, but I just wasn't using it, and I was becoming more of an employee that just simply worked for a company, clocking in and clocking out. That was my mentality. And the thing is, as a setter, you are an entrepreneur. Essentially, if you were a business owner and you had, the yellow pages in front of you, you're going to want to build up some business as quick as possible. And that's the beauty of appointment setting, is you're literally starting from the ground up, kind of as a business owner. Of course, it's not your business, but if you treat it that way, that's where things really start to get more serious for you, as far as like your own commitments and how that leads to a better outcome. So as far as like what I did is I was, not being very resourceful, as I mentioned a bit earlier. And so it came to a point where I sat down with a couple of guys from the management team at the time, and it got to a point where it's like, Taylor, you're just not doing good enough. You're just not putting in the work. You're not as resourceful like we thought you were. The one thing they said to me is it's not word for word. I don't know exactly, but it was like I was not what they expected what they expected from me, right? Because Marco thought I was going to be, one of the best that they had as far as appointment setting, training, being a really top rep at that Sniper. And I was not moving, coming up to those expectations at all. And that conversation that I had was what turned things around for me, really, gave me the fire. And that's very, very appointment as an appointment setter, is looking at how much desire that we do have, right? Because if we get to a point where we're coasting, we feel like this the same day to day, we don't have that same desire to beat our personal best, to like, improve our own law of averages. It gets to a point where you just end up like coasting. You end up, that gets recognized as well from managers and people higher up. They all see what you're doing. So for me, that's what happened, and the serious conversations what pulled me into gear. What you can take from that is to always ask for help when you need it, right? Never let things go on for too long without asking for help. And that's part of, and that's something I still need to work on, even better today, right? Is being able to ask for help when you need it, and stop trying to think that you can do it all on your own. That's the thing that I wish that I did sooner. Because if I did, I probably would have, achieved even more success, broke even more records. I wasn't saying it was too late. It definitely wasn't, but I could have done it quicker, right? So that's another thing. Ask for help and be as resourceful as you can. That's the biggest thing that helped me to get to the point where actually my first month with seventh level, that was when I was most excited and most committed. I got an award for what they call Charlie of the Month. That's like the setter of the month for seventh level. So I got that awards January, around I think it was February, March time. I kind of coasted a little bit. That's where the serious conversation happened. But yeah, like aside from that as well, I then started to get to a point where when I was doing DM setting, and DM setting is my favorite, by the way, because you can actually physically see the conversation. Like when you speak with people, you can't record what's gone on and see what you're saying or what they're saying. But in DMs, you can actually see the responses you're getting, and you get in real time feedback, as to what your skills are like. That's why I loved it so much. So I used that time doing DMs to just trial and test things. I broke down my script. I went 3 layers deep on each question. I asked, why am I asking that question? And asked why two more times to figure out why I was doing it. And I did that for every single point. And it got to a point where I was doing so well. And up till around May, I had my best ever month in appointment setting. And I produced 200K in cash collected. That was 250K revenue based on an average 6K price point for that offer. And that just came from being so relentless on improving my process, understanding the why behind absolutely everything. And that's what led to me really being able to, set. I got to a point where instead of getting a set in one in every 50 DMs, it was one in every 8 to 10. I would get a set, right? So I
You
was
were
sometimes
DM
saying,
setting. You were DM setting at that point.
DM setting, yes. That was in a Facebook group that I was doing. And of course, yeah, did some phone setting as well, like on occasion, but that DM setting was my main role there.
What would
Yeah.
be let's go through one of your processes because you were in a Facebook group. So maybe some of these guys that are working with business owners, they haven't even got someone like really going through the Facebook groups, which
Mm.
some people are missing out on. So what was your process?
Yeah, so I'll base it on a framework, right? So the framework that I had was like 5 steps. The first thing that I would do would obviously be an introduction. The good thing with making introductions with DMs, guys, and I know some business owners would say like cold DM straight away. That's not a way to do it, in my opinion, because there should be a brand and some trust involved first, where someone's at least gone inbound at least once with that business owner before you reach out to them. That would be my principle because nobody wants an unexpected message, and the first thing you're going to say in your mind is who is this person? I don't even know them, and they're reaching out to me. That's already a sign of desperation and low authority. So I would not go near that. But yeah, you want to make sure that the business owner's created inbound interest before you reach out. So when you reach out, you do your initial introduction, you do it in a very detached way, but you base it around sending them a valuable resource, right? So that you're at least providing value and giving them something before you ever ask for anything. So that's the introduction. I then want to connect, right? As soon as and I make that connection about, well, what is it specifically that they are looking to work on so that I can send them that relevant material that they want. So I base the connection around trying to provide value on what they want and what they want to work on because everyone's got different
Mm,
problems, things that they're looking to do. So I based it on that. That was the connection. At that point, then I wanted to figure out what a gap was, right? What was something that they were looking to accomplish, right? So from that, I'd say, okay, no problem. Here's the resource. So I send the resource first. I've given them the value. This then gives me permission to ask a question so I can have a better understanding. So the first thing I'd want to know is, okay, so what's, I guess, brought you here? Like, what, I guess, are you looking to ideally achieve based on what you're doing right now? So that's what I do. Or I dive into a little bit of their situation, just so they have a more of a better understanding. So I have a better understanding of like what role they're in or what they're selling, things like that. Really, so get a gauge of their situation. Once I find out what they're looking for, I then want to figure out the gap by saying, well, what is it that you're currently doing now? Like, what are you making right now as a sales rep? Or what are where are you currently right now in your sales career, right? One of those type of questions. So I get what the gap is, what they're looking to do. Once I've figured out the gap, I then want to find a problem, right? Because that gives me enough leverage to know that there's an issue behind it. And of course, by this point, I've built value already. I've been able to ask a question in an empathetic way that makes them want to respond to me. And at that point, I then try and find the problem by saying, okay, so what do you think is preventing you from actually getting to that stage that you are looking to get to, though? Right? And it's in a way where I make it in their best interest because it's simply talking about their goals. It's not about me, it's purely about that person. So that's finding the problem. I then expand the problem because at the end of the day, most people, and that's sometimes me included with certain things where we sometimes don't realize how big a problem actually is. We kind of just push it under the rug a little bit. We don't kind of
mm.
make it a big deal sometimes until it actually gets pulled out from underneath us without us even realizing. So what I'll do is I'll expand the problem and be like, okay, so like how long has it been going on for to see how long really it's been the case where they've been not where they want to be or the issue they're experiencing. At that point, I'll then say, so if this continues and you carry on with this process for 6 months, 12 months, whatever that looks like, um, you know, I guess do you feel like that might prevent us from getting to the goal that we have? Just as an example, right? It may not be the exact wording, but I want them to figure out if they carry on doing this, like how much longer is it that they're not going to achieve their goals, and like are they actually ever going to be able to achieve it? So they start to think, is it even possible to get to where I want to be? And they start doubting themselves based on where they're currently at. So it makes them want to change more and figure out more urgency. So that's the problem expanding. Once I then do that, I then want to kind of push back a little bit and ask about what makes, I guess, now the right time to even pursue this in the first place. Like, why not just push this down the road as you have done for the last 6 months? Right? Because that shows that I'm detached as a salesperson. I don't care whether they want to be set or not. That's not my job. My job is to facilitate the best decision for that person. So I push back, what makes now the right time. And at that point, if they give me a good enough answer, because they had to justify themselves to me, is this a candidate that's even serious, that even wants to do this, right? No wishy-washy answers. So I then try and push back a bit more. And at that point, then I'd look to ask for the set. But the way I'd ask for the set would just be in a very detached way once again, right? We don't ask it where it's like, oh, okay, do you want to speak with one of our advisors? Because at that point, then it just looks so obvious that I'm trying something. I would base it around like a very transparent but also very understandable way of setting the appointment. You need to make it so that in their mind it's a logical conclusion to ask what you've asked, right? It actually has to make sense. Otherwise, if they feel like, well, why is he asking that question, or that, he has ulterior motives, then you've probably asked the question in the wrong order or in the wrong way. So the way that I want to ask it would be a very simple, so based on everything that we've covered and the fact that you're doing XYZ that's preventing you from hitting your goal, what I actually could do is connect you with one of our advisors that can walk you through our process to potentially see if what we're doing is even going to align for you. Would that make sense, or would that be helpful? Right. It's a very detached way of looking at things. Once again, I don't care if you get set or not. Right. It's in your best interest to get to your outcome. It's up to you. The ball's in your is in your court. What do you want to do? I leave it to them. And then at that point, the beauty of that setting process is they've owned that decision making process. You are, essentially well out of the equation. You've just asked and facilitated the questions that gives them, I guess, the ability to take ownership of their issues or not. Right? You're just there testing the waters, seeing how committed that person actually is.
Would
So
you?
that's, I
I think
guess,
we got a
yeah,
question as well. Would you
yeah, yeah.
drop the price before the set or no price drop?
It depends on the context, right? Like if we're talking a phone call that's outbound and it's the initial conversation, there's no point. At this point, you're just trying to figure out if there's a problem or something of what they're looking for. And at that point, then you can go through it in your next call. Something that I've been doing with a client that I'm currently teaching right now on our second conversation, like we call it like the qualification call, the 10-15 minute one. At the end, I discuss and say to that, I would say to that prospect the price range of what it is that we deliver and saying if that even could be feasible for you, as long as you're 100% confident with what we provide, right? So I would be very upfront about that as well. And I think, even in the last 1 to 2 years, like since I've worked at seventh level, so many things have changed. And being upfront and transparent is now, I think, the new, well,
Best
it's not the
way.
new way of selling, right? I think it's probably been around forever, but that's so important nowadays. People want that transparency and that level of
A lot of people
upfrontness
are
and showing
not,
that you don't give a
and
shit.
it's business owners as well that and I really believe a lot of business owners they don't know sales. They think they know sales, and they're like, oh, but these leads are coming in, and if we tell them the price, they're gonna get scared. But
Yeah,
then that
of
lead was never
course.
gonna
Yeah.
buy anyway. But and the way I see it is, and this is just the way I do sales. I look at what everybody else is doing, and I do the total opposite. I look at what everybody else
Yeah.
is doing. Everybody else, the moment they ask the price, they'll be dodging the question and they'll be like, oh, but we need to, I don't have that information and it's not my job and we've got multiple programs. And the guy's asking you what the price is. Just go, if you don't want to give him a point blank answer, just be like, yeah, it's anywhere between 5,000 and 15,000. Just depends on your needs. Is that going to be okay with you? What if he's got minus 15 grand in his bank account? And of course it's not going to be okay for him. So why
Yeah.
even waste your time on the call right now, waste the company's time and that closes time on the call? Oh, but maybe he can do funding or this or that or whatever. Yeah, all these things come up. But if you've had that conversation with him, then like, I don't have that kind of money. Do you have access to that kind of money? So now you're getting, so rather than just getting that person booked in and booking 10 leads and then getting two people closed, uh, you could even easily just book 5 people and probably get 2, 3, 4 people, whatever, closed and enrolled into your program, as opposed to just wasting time with unqualified people that were just never going to buy. Because if they're asking about money right up,
Exactly.
straight up, just address it. Because regardless of whatever you're going to be talking about, they're still thinking about their question that's not been answered.
Always, yeah, that's massive because one thing as well is like the way I used to do this, where I used to kind of just avoid the question and like ask what I wanted to ask. Then at that point, they realize that your agenda is more important to you than their agenda, right? Which at that point they're not going to communicate, they're not going to open up, they're gonna shut off. So what's really important is to respect their communication, respect like their boundaries, and give them something. So, like, and if we're talking about a handling situation, of course, there I mentioned about prevention, but handling that situation, the way I'd look at it is first I want to address it and say, okay, no, that's totally understandable, and I'm happy to go through those details with you. I'm curious because I don't get asked this too often. What even brought you to ask in the first place, just so I understand, right? I want to actually understand a bit more, what's brought them to do it. They can tell me things like, oh, I just want to make sure I can afford it, or, I just want to make sure that it makes sense for me, all that kind of stuff. And at that point, then I'm willing to be upfront, let them know the price. And I want objections to come out of them there and then. I really want to pull out everything that I can so that then when I pass it on to the closer, they're like, bloody hell, that was the easiest close I've ever done. Like, I don't even think I need to do any work. Like, do you want my commissions? Not that they'll do that, but you want it to be so easy for them. And that's your job as a closer, as a setter, is to be that gatekeeper for that closer so they have a great time. Right. And then they're going to rave about you. And if they're a great closer, imagine how much opportunities you have because they like you so much. And that's what helped me, right? Like when I was setting, and there was even one point where I managed to get people sending me money for my leads because my leads were becoming so good. So I'd get people to do bidding wars, and I would say, right, if I can give you this guy and he's an inner circle, you give me $200 if you make that sale. So I'd get my set commissions plus the $200 they give me. And then I said to Chris, well, I'm getting $200 from Christian. If you give me $250, I'll give this lead to you. Right. And at this point, I had the leverage as an appointment
The
setter,
asset.
right? You wouldn't believe that. So you have so many opportunities to create leverage there just from being so good at your skills where you're passing through leads that like closers just want to die for, right? So the whole element of like pushing back and providing that quality, it's just as important as quantity. And yeah, financial qualification is a big part of that, right? Three main areas is, do they have the money? Or if not, can they find the money? If not, are they willing to go and find the money? Those are the three areas you want to try and gather. And if they're not willing to do any of those, then I would say they're unqualified in the financial terms. But yeah, hopefully that answers everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Taylor, for sharing all of these great nuggets. I've genuinely learned a lot about the role of an appointment setter. Are there any final remarks, anything that you want to share with anyone like right now looking to maybe get into appointment setting? Like you were sharing with me, actually share some of your wins with the guys as well, like what you've been doing, what are you up to right now, and what have you been involved in, and any like last remarks to any of the guys?
Yeah, so as far as like final remarks for you guys, and of course, I know I'm speaking to some people who are current appointment setters, maybe even closers that are here, or if you're totally new to it and need to find a role, of course, you all require different things. But the first thing I would say is coming back to my point that I made about connecting with business owners, connecting with salespeople, developing those relationships and adding value. It's very, very important. And it opens up so many doors for you that you wouldn't even realize. Like for me, being able to do that and build my own reputation, I had a guy that I worked with at Sniper. He referred me to paid clients to consult their teams, right? And that was from me putting out content. If I didn't put out any content, I built no relationships. He wouldn't have even thought of me to come in and train those teams. And by the way, I'm not the best setter in the world. There are setters out there that are way better than me. I'm sure of it. But it's not only about that, but it's also the teaching and what you bring to the table. So you don't have to be the best setter to be a coach, but obviously, yeah, you have to bring some value either way. But yeah, just focus on building as much value to others as possible with no expectation of getting a penny, right? That's a
Mm.
huge thing because that's what I used to do. I used to expect things back and I got nothing, the obvious case. But yeah, give without any expectation. That's really important. And make that your philosophy as you learn more from others and you try to connect with people in the space. Yeah, as far as what I'm up to now, I am doing a little bit of consulting on the side, and I'm currently closing on a marketing offer that's yeah, absolutely dream offer.
Which
But I
commission
would
have you
not have
made
got
in the
that
last
offer.
few months on your recent role? Get us
Okay, so
excited.
yeah, so in just over about 5 months mark now, I've made 50K in commissions, and that's been on some up and down. There's been some slow periods during that time as well. So no,
Listen,
it's
you can
been
have as
nice.
slow
It's
periods that you want. You just said 50 grand, 50 grand in commission in the last 5 months, and you've had some slow periods. And there's people right now in the UK that are on like 16, 17, 1400 pounds a month and are really struggling. Yet
yeah,
you've
that
made
makes me
on
feel bad, but
average, yeah. And but like they look at this industry and they're like, oh, but is it really possible? And like, even if you struggle,
yeah,
like, and this is one thing I say to everybody, even if you struggle for 6 months, just do your full-time job and just learn this on the side. And eventually
100%.
you may
Yeah.
crack something and you could do it outside of your full 9 to 5 job. I mean, you just said you had quite a few quiet months and you made what 50 grand in the last 5 months commissions in
Yeah.
your bank, like bam, in your bank.
But I wanted to preface that as well, right? Because guys, like I've had lots of times where I've had really, really low months. Like, and it is a grind
Let's
in
just
appointment
clarify
setting,
what's
right?
a
So
low month. What's a low month for you, Taylor?
I mean, well, obviously, I managed to negotiate a 2K base, right? But I think the lowest month was like, I think 2.5, 3 grand. Or I think it was actually probably just the base, actually. So 2 grand where I made no sets that month, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's higher
um,
than the UK average UK salary as well, by the way, just so you know. So like,
okay. Well, yeah, I think part of the negotiation helped me for sure. But like, of course, with that all being said, guys, like I still had months where I didn't achieve what I wanted, and it is a grind. It's going to feel like sometimes you're going to want to give up. Like it's definitely not easy. And before then, of course, I was in sales trying to. The 10K month was always my goal initially. Before I'd even started in high ticket sales, and there was months I hardly made anything, defaulted on credit cards. Like it was really tough. So I've been going at this personal development since I started network marketing at 18, trying different things and trying to make it work. But one thing I've realized is that, like, as long as I don't stop and I put action in, eventually I will catch up. My actions will catch up with my beliefs, and eventually they'll merge together. When I actually hit the first 10K month, I did not believe it was possible before then. I always thought, well, these other guys are making it, but what about me though? I don't think that's possible for me. And the small-minded mentality can start to come in. But I know it's once again cliche to say that if I can do it, then a lot of people can. But I'm very much not a special person by any means at all. I'm just a normal
special to
person
me,
just trying to
bro.
make it happen.
You're special to me, bro.
Okay, well that really matters to me, right? So yeah, as long as I'm special to someone, then that's fine. But yeah,
That's
guys,
awesome, man.
I'm not, I'm
Honestly,
not.
you have no idea. You just sharing your story and your journey to a lot of these people over here right now. You started off as a DM setter, appointment setter, and now you're closing for one of the largest marketing companies in the world right now. And kudos to you, man. And kudos to you. And you've done really well. So thank you very much for your time here today, guys. You can see Taylor's name, Taylor O'Hare. O'Hara. Hopefully I pronounced that right. You can follow him on social
You're
media,
fine. You're
guys.
good.
Connect with him on Facebook, Instagram. He's got his own YouTube channel as well. Reach out to him. He's a lovely guy. Maybe if you're struggling on anything on appointment setting as well, maybe he can give you a shout. Hopefully we can get him back again for anything else. But it's been a pleasure having you, Taylor. Thank you so much. And everybody else, guys, make sure you like and subscribe. I've never said that before, actually, but I wanted to say it today. But honestly, guys, thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care, Taylor. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. See you later, guys.